development of a school feeding policy.
Sorry. Esli Muhanda.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just take this opportunity to congratulate you for your appointment as the Deputy Speaker, specifically coming from the caucus of the women. Indeed, we are overjoyed. Honorable Speaker, I also take this opportunity to thank the people of Kakamega for electing me Tano Tena overwhelmingly, and I make a special dedication of this motion to the child in Kakamega and to the child in Kenya as a whole who did not get a meal today. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, aware that school meals are an important safety net for vulnerable children from food insecure households and communities in Kenya, appreciating that school meals have multiple benefits such as increased school enrollments and attendance, as well as a significant and positive contribution to reducing hunger and improving nutritional intake, noting that primary school completion rates have been found to be higher in schools with meals provided. Thus, school meals remain a core development intervention to support the country's achievements in the education sector, recognizing that some county governments have adopted direct and community-led initiatives for ECDE, school feeding programs, concerned that the exercise is not supported by a clear policy and budgetary framework and does not support pupils in primary and secondary schools who form the basic education ecosystem. Cognizant of the fact that where school meal programs have been initiated, it has been noted that they encounter different challenges that impede their effectiveness, including insufficient resources due to low budgetary allocation and budget cuts, lack of a school feeding policy, inadequate safe cooking and drinking water, drought and famine, poor food storage, a lengthy procurement process, insecurity, and dilapidated infrastructure, among others. This House therefore resolves that the Ministry of Education, through the relevant state department, immediately develops a school feeding policy to cover basic education pupils and sustain the program in order to ensure that children are maintained in schools for effective learning and to improve their well-being. Honorable Speaker, let me begin by defining school feeding as the provision of food, meals, snacks, or take-home incentives conditional upon school attendance to children and their households through school-based programs. The meals are either prepared at the school, in the community, or are delivered from centralized kitchens. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya, Article 53C states that every child has a right to basic nutrition, shelter, and health care. Referring to the poverty index of 2022, 17% of Kenyans' population live below 200 shillings per day, meaning that 8.9 million Kenyans are in extreme poverty. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is ranked 86 out of the 117 qualifying countries on the 2019 Global Hunger Index. this classifying the country's situation as serious, and this shows the level of real dire need. World Food Programme has shown that most people who are most vulnerable to food security live in the dry areas, which cover 80% of the country. Children are the demographic group most vulnerable to hunger. This is because their growing bodies are more vulnerable, and about 29% of the children in rural areas and 20% of those living in towns have stunted growth. Honorable Speaker, COVID-19 pandemic did not make things easy. Honorable Speaker, we have had efforts to have feeding programs in Kenya since the 1980s. We have had the Maziwa ya Nyayo. We have had NGOs like the Food for Education, who are also partnering with some members of parliament here, like the member of Dagoretti South. And because of the grave situation, we have also had honorable members having feeding programs in their areas, like Honorable Christopher Aseka and Honorable Milemba, who have feeding programs. And we thank you, because it's not easy because of budgetary constraints. We equally have the Ministry of Education, which has some feeding programs in the ASAL areas and in the slum areas. Honorable Speaker, this is not enough, because the whole of Kenya needs the feeding program. Used primarily as to incentivize the enrollment and retention of rural children and girls, subsidized meal programs have played an integral part in realizing the country's goal of universal primary education. Historically, the involvement of non-governmental organizations has greatly limited the Kenyan government's role in the direction of stewardship of these programs. Reliance on donor support and management has subjected the programs to fluctuating and often conditional support from the actors. Financial strains and infrastructural challenges have been the major setback in Kenya's ability to successfully fund and operate its own feeding program.